Hello, my name is Erik Vélez and I am an undergraduate student on the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez. Today, I will talk about a very interesting but debatable topic, the development of human sexual identity and orientation in the 21st century. I would like to begin with a quote from Sir Isaac Newton. He once said, "Truth is ever to be found in simplicity and not in the multiplicity and confusion of things." Having said this, I think there are many people disoriented on this subject because they try to find out answers by complicating a truth that has been with us all the time. Perhaps they develop their own ideas using subjective information and opinions. However, to find the truth about our identity, specifically about our sexual identity, we need to use objective information based on evidence, science, and even psychology, anthropology, sociology, and philosophy. So, I hope that this presentation helps us understand what is the truth behind this topic. Especially, I hope that the information I provide helps those people that are struggling with their own sexual identity. First, we need to know what could be a proper definition of sexuality. According to Dr. Joseph Cornella, the sexuality is an expression throughout our life of our biological nature and our psychological, emotional, and spiritual determinants. From the interaction of all these factors comes the sexual behavior. By knowing this, now we can answer what is the difference between sexual identity and sexual orientation. Sexual identity, based on many developmental theorists like Erik Erikson, our identity, even our sexual identity, is developed from the day we are born and is influenced by biological, psychological, environmental, and social factors along our life. Nevertheless, I found out on the internet that our sexual identity is based in our feelings. However, according to the definition provided by experts, our sexual identity can't be reduced its meaning in just our feelings. For example, one day we could be angry with someone, but if in the other day this person dies, we could feel pain and sadness. Our feelings are constantly changing from one day to another, like opinions. But our identity are more than feelings and opinions. It is rooted in our biology and psychology, as we will see soon. Sexual orientation. On the other hand, according to Papalia et al., sexual orientation is the consistent gender approach related to sexual, romantic, and affectionate interest, whether heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual. So, humans develop a consistent sexual orientation which affect their sexual identity. However, as you heard, sexual identity and sexual orientation are not the same term. Humans have a sexual identity and a sexual orientation that affects their identity. Therefore, we may ask ourselves, which sexual identities exist for humans? Well then, if sexual identity is developed from the day we are born and is influenced by internal and external factors, there could be two logical options at first instance: man and woman. But why? In the last decades, some people have affirmed that man and woman identities are made by social construction and stereotypes. But is this true at all? Quote, "Man and women are different. These differences include both biological phenotypes and psychological traits. Some of them are influenced by environmental factors, but there are fundamental differences between the sexes that are rooted in biology. Men and women differences. Men and women have fundamental differences, and this is good to know. First, everybody knows that biologically, men and women bodies are different. We have different sexual glands which produce different hormones. These hormones are natural substances that are produced in the body and that influence the way the body grows and develops. In fact, Ngun and other scientists proved these differences in their investigation. Also, discoveries in the genetics field have shown us that men and women have a different chromosome in every cell. A normal man has the chromosome XY, while a woman has XX. This sexual chromosome contains all the genes and instructions that are related to our sexual biological phenotypes and characteristics. In addition, many scientists, such as Ngun, has found out that men and women's brains work in a different manner, whether neuroanatomical or neurochemical. Thus, it means that a woman does not process the information in the same way that a man does. Finally, psychologically, a man and a woman are different. They behave differently. However, our psychology could be affected by environmental and social factors. So, there are sufficient reasons to understand that men and women have not the same sexual identity, and thus both sexes are different. They have unique characteristics that identifies them. However, we may say that everybody regarding their sex are humans. In addition, there is no such thing as a dominant sex. Generally, a baby has the same probability to born as a male or as a female. Now, let's talk about sexual orientation. As I mentioned, sexual orientation is not the same as sexual identity, although it affects how our sexuality is expressed. We can see that there are men that are sexually attracted by other men and other women. But why? Why and how we develop different sexual orientation? Quoting Ngun, human sexual orientation is a complex phenotype to study. Sexual orientation may be mediated by numerous social and psychological factors. Since then, there is a huge possibility that sexual orientation is caused by social and psychological factors. However, we may also ask, is our biology interfere? In 1993, Hammer et al. Report that male homosexuality was more often on the mother's side of the family versus the father's side. A linkage scan showed significant linkage of male homosexuality to the X chromosome region XQ28. These scientists do their investigation in identical twins because they have the same genes. They believe that if this region is methylated, a man becomes homosexual. However, this report does not have other proof from other scientists. Nevertheless, Servick, a reporter from the Science magazine, recently affirms that any biological predisposition probably interact with environmental factors that influence the development of a sexual orientation. Also, De la Barreda, a psychologist specialized in this topic, said in one of his investigations, perhaps the answer to the most urgent question in this debate are not so much in biology or genetics, but in culture and in a social construction that is empty of values. Having said this, sexual orientation origins could be a result of environmental factors. In fact, psychiatrists such as Van den Arweg and Polaino has written their own analysis after treating men and women with the same sex attraction syndrome. Recently, Van der Arweg wrote an article named Origin and Mechanisms of the Homosexual Complex, while Polaino wrote The Homosexual Self-Identification Process, both in Spanish. According to this psychiatrist, sexual orientation is developed from the day we begin to relate with others. They found out that most of the people with same-sex attraction, a term that better describes a homosexual, whether a man or a woman, have families where the same-sex parent has been absent physically or psychologically in their childhood, and thus, as a young boy or girl, they struggle with their sexual identity, which is rooted in biology, as we previously said. Since then, as young adults, these people began to feel attracted to those characteristics in others that he or she accepts consciously or unconsciously as his or her shortcomings. Nevertheless, these specialists recognize that these attractions are not the biggest problems that they face. The problem arises when our society and culture propagate as truth that to satisfy this attraction we must sexualize such attraction. In fact, today we are taught to share sexual intimacy based on just our feelings. In addition, this psychiatrist saw that men with same-sex attractions commonly have an overprotective mother, early sexual contact, etc. Finally, they both conclude that if a therapist is well informed in this topic, there is a probability to help these people to develop a healthy sexuality based in their sexual identity and not just their feelings and attractions. After talking about differences between sexual identity and sexual orientation, men and women differences, and sexual orientation development, we conclude that as science continues to advance our understanding about the truth of sexual identity and sexual orientation, a new field will emerge focused on a better addressing the needs of men and women. In fact, there's hope for those people who are struggling with their sexual orientation and so with their sexual identity. It is important to develop a healthy sexuality, and so everybody, especially the youth, must be responsible for their health, education, and well being. On the other hand, we want to reaffirm that all kinds of discrimination and hatred should be left out of this topic. After all, We are human beings who take our own decisions, and so we must respect each other. For more information, I encourage you to review this work cited. Thanks for your attention.